Cool. All right. What's up, y'all? What's good? What's popping? What's calculating? It's your man Nico being with the scene. We are here for our second episode of reacting to the Wakanda Forever podcast, the official Wakanda Forever podcast from November of 2022. I got my man Blue in the house. Go ahead and introduce yourself, man.
Hey, what's up? This is Bluminati from Blue's House. What's good, my good, beautiful people? How y'all living?
Yes, sir. So, like I said before, we're gonna go ahead and get into it. Blue, first of all, I want to ask you, did you get a chance to look at the first episode or take a peek at it? Because I did a video and I did like a podcast. There's a new feature on the site for YouTube. They get you're able to make a podcast from a video that you've already made, but I don't know if you knew that or not.
Nah, I saw the tab on it. I just ain't played with it yet, but I did check out some of your stuff. I didn't get a chance to listen to the whole thing, but I was checking out what you had did. I was at work when I was listening to it, so
okay.
Yeah. And then you had somebody else on. Who'd you have on? Who was that?
Oh no, that was the one that the first episode I did for the podcast thing. I did that by myself. That I just did the first episode. So
okay, so I must have seen something different then.
Yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, man. I did. Actually,
I know you've been working, so you know what I'm saying, you got everything going on. You know what I mean?
Yes, sir. But I'm gonna go ahead and share this with you. We about to get into it, bro. This is the second episode, or the second episode for the podcast for Wakanda Forever. I'm sorry, for Wakanda Forever. My bad. I didn't even say that. My bad. But yeah. So we about to get into it. Question: Have you heard this podcast before?
I didn't want to listen to it.
Oh, wow.
Honestly, I didn't want to listen to it just because. For what?
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. To be honest with you, I feel that because when I even heard, even with Theo, when he was doing his little thing, when he was reacting to it, because I don't believe none of us actually listened to the podcast, because we knew going into the movie, or even just from what we were hearing rumors and what was officially made, I was like, why y'all making a podcast? Y'all just, what's the point?
It was and it worked. It worked for those who didn't know what was going on. It worked, but they had to. I want to know, is there a Ant-Man and the Quantumania?
Yeah, where's that podcast at?
You know,
how about this? Where's the podcast for the first Black Panther movie?
Right,
I didn't do nothing with that.
Right, you know what I'm saying? They had to do a podcast to recertify, to try to reel in the people. You know what I mean? Because it was a lot of pandemic in regards to Black Panther 2, Wakanda Forever. There was a lot of pandemonium. There's a lot of, hey, recast T'Challa, anti-recast T'Challa. It was people in the middle saying, hey, I don't care, I just want to watch the movie. You know, so they had to find a way to clean it up. You know what I mean? So I think, because like I said, where's the other podcast? Why this is a good idea. I think this is a dope idea. If I'm Marvel, I would do this with every movie. Exactly.
You're doing the same thing what you're doing when you're doing well, they have something like similar to it, but they have every behind the scenes quote unquote mini documentary for how they did, like they did Wakanda Forever, they did Ant-Man, they did it's called the Marvel's Assembled.
Yeah, Marvel's, I know they do that, but
yeah,
this if like I said, Quantumania, what came out of
that came out
Guardians of the Galaxy. You know what I'm saying? Like sitting down doing a podcast with all the creators, everybody involved, some of the cast, the crew, things of that nature, and do a podcast and actually do a deep dive into, the machinations of what decided you to go this route and this direction. Not just for Black, you know what I'm saying? And I'm stepping away from Black Panther with Ant-Man, with Guardians of the Galaxy, with whatever's coming up next. Hell, with think about, we just had
Secret Invasion, which I didn't watch because I knew, I don't know if I should make a video on this, but the main precipice for the whole entire storyline for Secret Invasion. I know I haven't even read the comics and I know it's dope. With Black Panther, when he went against the Skrulls and then he went against that Super Skrull,
right?
That would have made way more money with doing that instead of having Talos's daughter.
You got the wrong people involved. When you have the wrong people involved who, and I don't know the money aspect of it, but if I'm a creator and I've read, like you said, if I've read Secret Invasion, you just pulling from that. It's so, that story is so massive. This you can't do Secret Invasion in 6 episodes, in 38 minute episodes. You can't do that.
You can't, and that's what I'm saying. If the right people were involved, like you said, if the right people were involved with doing these projects that are based on comic books, we would be having close to 50 episodes for one season. We would not be having all this, oh, we're going to limit to 6 episodes. My friend, you make money off of making comic books, but then you try to translate that to the big screen, or even just a small screen with doing your Disney Plus shows. You could not simply say, okay, we're going to do this season here, we're going to do this season here. I even said in my previous live stream, okay, Nick Fury deals with this. All right, take your time. Now that you got a strike going on for both your writers and your actors, with its 2 pillars of your whole entire business, take the time to go ahead and try to find somebody to replace, not really replace, but to take the take place of Chadwick Boseman as T'Challa. And then I said in my previous stream, you have Aldous Hodge. You're not using him right now because nobody is dealing with what happened in Black Adam. Nobody's dealing with that. So Aldous Hodge, if I'm Marvel, I'm gonna go ahead and I don't even know what's going on with them when they're doing Fantastic Four. It seems like that's getting flushed down the drain.
Well, now they just came out with some stuff about it recently. This past week, they talked about. I know what's her name? Vanessa Kirby is supposed to be playing Sue Storm.
Okay, did she just play in Loki?
Nah, not I don't think so.
I'm talking about in the first season. She just played a variant of Loki, the girl Loki.
No. They look alike, but they not. That's not the same person.
Oh, it's not the same person.
Nah, Vanessa Kirby is from Hobbs and Shaw and Fast 9, I think it was.
No, you're not getting me. That's the same person, because if you go back and look at the person who played, I'll pull up my phone right now. The same person who played Hobbs and Shaw. I know you're talking about the sister.
Yeah, the sister
of Shaw. Yeah, that's the same person, bro. That is the exact same person.
Playing Sylvie?
Yes.
Nah, that's not the same person.
Hold on. I'm about to pull it up on my phone right now, because as a matter of fact, I'll pull it up on here because I know it has to be the same person. It has to be.
That's not the same person.
Okay, Hobbs and Shaw. All right, Hobbs and Shaw. So
I don't know her name.
Vanessa Kirby, Haley. I told you. I'm about to show it right now. Here it is, right here. Vanessa Kirby, Hattie.
Yeah, that's who Vanessa Kirby is, but that's not. She doesn't play. All
right, I'm gonna pull up Loki season 1.
Yeah, she don't play. She's not Sylvie.
Are you sure about that?
I'm positive. That's not Sylvie.
All right.
Sophie DiMartino. Yeah.
All right, I give you that. All right. I thought I was for darn sure that it was gonna be her.
Yeah, they look similar, but they make the same ones.
All right, but let's go ahead and get into this, bro, because I want you to hear this. I want you to hear it. All right.
This week we'll hear about that from some of the people who make all of that happen. Production designer Hannah Beekler.
I wanted to.
Like I said, y'all, this is chapter 2.
The Black Panther first appeared in comics back in 1966. This was Marvel's heyday. Spider-Man, the X-Men, the Fantastic Four, Iron Man, the Incredible Hulk, the Avengers, Daredevil. All of them are products of the 1960s.
Who
you can kind of feel it too.
You said what?
Who is that talking?
Oh, this is Ta-Nehisi Coates. I should have told you to do your homework before then.
Okay.
Because Ta-Nehisi Coates is the one. And what's interesting about this is they got Ta-Nehisi Coates to do the podcast. This whole entire kind of podcast. Because as you know, Ta-Nehisi Coates wrote one of the best, if not, I don't want to say the best, because I haven't read Christopher Priest or Reginald Hudl's run yet. Which I sorely need to do. I sorely need to do.
Priest did a good job. I like Priest.
When Ta-Nehisi Coates made the
Intergalactic
Empire and the what is it?
It started. I'm gonna tell you the truth. That started out so slow for me, man. I was about
Empire Wakanda.
Yeah.
Well, shoot. Look at it this way.
It was a Star
Wars story. It was a Star Wars / Star Trek-esque story.
Right. As I got into it, it got better, but it came out of nowhere.
Yeah, it did. And then it made you think some things, because if Wakanda is the most technological nation on Earth, and they're doing stuff before even America thinks about going into space or going into the moon, they've already done it.
Yeah,
and they're already establishing other worlds, like basically making their footstep across the universe.
Mm-hmm.
And so Wakanda's doing this, and I'm thinking to myself, hold up. So if he made this, and then Chadwick Boseman mix saying this could be our Star Wars, oh my gosh. If God had not called him home so early, and we were doing this movie would have never been made on one hand. And then on top of that, I always say in my videos, and I said this in the first episode when I did my first one, what we see in every other superhero franchise, they up the ante. They make stuff better. They always say it 2 times better than what it was in the first one.
Right.
They said in this movie it was going to be better than the first one. How?
They went backwards.
Yeah, you went totally backwards. You had Shuri, the fight scene between Shuri and Namor. Oh my gosh.
They went backwards. They went backwards. Man.
They went backwards so far, because I wish in the first movie, and I don't like talking. I don't talk down to people, but Letitia Wright. Of course, I wasn't there to see the readings between Chadwick Boseman and Letitia Wright. I would beg to say you've already had multiple actors play 2 different roles in the MCU. You just had in Eternals, you had the person who played the Asian woman who was one of the main characters.
Yeah,
she played a character in Captain Marvel.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So you telling me you cannot have Monica Rambeau's mom, who played Captain Marvel in Multiverse of Madness? Why did you not put her as Shuri? Because to me, she fit the bill completely, especially what she did in The Woman King.
Right. I think the thing is, when you look at what's her name, Gemma Chan, when she what she did in Captain Marvel, she was in the makeup and everything like that, and then you know what I'm saying, actually she did. This would be her 3rd role in I could be mistaken. It could just only be 2, but I think
you're right. It's her 3rd role. No. I'm sorry. No,
I think it's 3 with Gemma Chan. It might just be 2, but either way, the makeup. So you didn't really know that she was playing. You know what I'm saying, that was her. So I understand that. But you have contracts, but that's the only thing. You can't just fire people because contracts is involved. So getting rid of, you know what I'm saying, getting rid of
Letitia Wright
wouldn't have been an easy task. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, I understand that, but the thing is, for me, if you're trying to, cause see, I went back and watched Black Panther 1, and I saw how they did everything. They made T'Challa like a James Bond-esque character,
right?
And then you had basically Q, which was Shuri. She had all the technology, she had all that. You only had a very brief glimpse at how smart T'Challa was when it came to being like a suit maker for himself.
Right.
And that was when he mentioned his design when you saw the Civil War suit at the when he was getting his new suit. And so you saw that. I'm like, okay, This dude made shadow physics. Why are we not getting deep into that? Like, come on now.
Like I said, it's all about having the right people involved. And you didn't have this one thing I will give. First Black Panther, like you said, it was trying to set up T'Challa as being the Black James Bond, right? Cool concept. I'm cool with that. As we get further into it, we're complaining about things that we never got, right? Yeah. And seems like we're not going to get it. That's seems like we're not getting it. We have every right to complain about it, but I think if we would have had Shad or if they would have said, all right, we're recasting or anything like that, now you get the opportunity to dive into, like you said, shadow physics. You get the opportunity to dive into these things, but we never got T'Challa's story. We never, and let me not say we never got T'Challa's story. We never got Black Panther's story, because Shuri's not Black Panther.
We didn't get T'Challa's story. We got him when his dad died in Civil War, and that was it.
That's it. Shuri is not Black Panther. It's me saying that is not sexist. It's not misogynist. It's not Shuri. She's not Black. Shuri is Shuri.
I'm gonna be honest. I would rather had Shuri be knocked out or have a near-death experience like she had in Wakanda Forever, and have her brother come in at the very end of the movie and handle business, thinking he was dead, but he really wasn't. And then listen, because I'm gonna blow your mind here. I would have had Shuri be in a near-death experience. I'm talking about paving the way to her being her actual comic book counterpart that she had in Wakanda in the Ta-Nehisi Coates run when she turned into it's on the tip of my tongue. Griot. She turned to Griot. I would have had her, instead of Ramonda dying and having all that crap happen, I would have had Shuri on the brink of death, her spirit or her consciousness going through the Djalia, having somebody that looks like Ramonda got her through, and then T'Challa is already on the living side of things, dealing with we could have had at the very, like I said this in a live with Theo, a end scene or mid credit and end scene or after credit scene where Shuri is in a comatose state instead of T'Challa. T'Challa is handling business with Namor. You got Dr. Doom, because this was basically a Doom War movie.
That's what it was supposed to be.
Dr. Doom. That was my thing. I was like, wait a minute. You already had rumors, and then you showed a video where it was literally a cutscene of Dr. Doom, and then you decide to replace it with that's the child? Really?
Yeah.
Really? But anyway, I digress. Let's go ahead and get into this.
Yeah, let's get into this.
Yeah, let's get into this. All right.
When I was a kid, it was widely held that if you were a Black comic book fan, you read Marvel. Marvel was the real world. It was the street. It made perfect sense to Black comic book fans that cops would always try to arrest Spider-Man, that the X-Men were hated and feared, that Tony Stark would be an alcoholic, that Bruce Banner's rage would be world-breaking. So there was always something appropriate about the fact that the first superhero of African descent in mainstream comics would be in Marvel Comics, because Marvel felt real, and in any real world, there had to be Black superheroes. I don't want to overstate this. The fact is that until Christopher Priest took over the title in the early aughts, there really was no definitive Black Panther run, and thus no defining events which rang out across the Marvel universe. No Phoenix Saga, no death of Gwen Stacy, no Secret Wars, no Scourge of the Underworld. For a writer, this presents a problem. Comics are a heritage. Creators take over a title and bring their own ideas, all while deepening the older and more familiar stories.
Ooh,
so Ed Brubaker and Steve Epstein.
Oh, yeah. What you say?
I said pause right there. That what he said right there. He said writers come in, add their own stories.
Yes.
While bigging up the legacy of these characters.
Yes. We're not going to name a certain person on this segment because we'll just call him John Riddle. John Riddle. Yeah, I don't plan on buying that comic book run anytime soon. I'm gonna put my focus. I'm gonna just wait because I'm one of those people that wait till everything is done. Then I go buy the whole thing, so I won't have to wait. I'm talking about Eve Ewing's run now because she's doing Black Panther. I don't know how long they plan on keeping her. I think I pray and hope that they keep her for a good amount of time. Possibly do the same thing they did with Ta-Nehisi Coates. Invite him back to do the whole another run. Because when he did A Nation Under Our Feet, the very first run, I think, in my opinion, that's what Ryan Coogler was trying to shoot for when he made the first Black Panther movie. Because in that same run, we had T'Challa open up the world to open up Wakanda to the world.
Yeah.
And we had the ramifications for what happened. And so that's what I think that was going to go down. But I believe, like I said, time happened, fate happened, and we are where we are. And I don't know how we going to recoup from this unless, shoot, they got to get their stuff straight because they just lost their main actor for Blade. I'm thinking to myself, hold up.
Oh, did he walk?
Yes, he walked. He walked.
I mean, he up there in age, man. I don't see how with them pushing it back. And not saying he wouldn't be able to do that, but actor like Ali, man, award-winning actor, he want to go out and do roles. When you with Marvel, you know you get stuck. And this movie got announced. What, it's been 4 years now?
It was announced in 2019. It is now 20. It's about to be 2024.
Yeah, so like it's been 4 years and no traction, no movement, no script, no nothing.
Yeah.
That means we got the strike going on. You got another 2 years before.
Yeah.
Or at least about a year and a half before. Right. You know what I'm saying? So if he did walk, I would have walked too. It's time to go. Y'all need to find somebody else, man.
My thing is there's a plethora of actors that we don't know the names of that are doing small projects, indie projects, stuff like that. And they have not been discovered yet.
That's Marvel's. I think that's all these big studios' problem is they keep trying to hire
big names.
Yeah. Go, you know what I'm saying? Go build somebody. Build a star. You know what I'm saying? You got to think Chris Evans wasn't a star. I mean, he did movies, but he wasn't no star.
No, he wasn't.
Robert Downey Jr. wasn't even a star. He was, you can say it was a household name, but he probably was only a household name because he had been to prison.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Chris Hemsworth. All of these, probably the biggest star they had was Samuel Jackson and Scarlett Johansson.
And the only reason we know about Sam is because they use his likeness in the comic books, and he demanded them to put him in the movies.
Yeah. So when you built stars, go build some more stars. You can do that, and you save money doing that.
Yeah. But let me go ahead and continue with this, man. All right.
Thing bring Bucky back from the dead, but as the Winter Soldier. Jonathan Hickman takes the X-Men's outcast tradition and pushes it to its separatist extremes. Brian Michael Bendis creates Miles Morales, all the while building on the legacy of Peter Parker. This is as true in the movies as it is in the comics. But when director Ryan Coogler began writing the first Black Panther film with co-writer Joe Robert Cole, they didn't have that same deep well of stories. The result is that what you see in the first Black Panther film and in Wakanda Forever are characters, Nakia, M'Baku, Namor, for instance, whose names are the same as in the comics, but whose narratives are very different. Nowhere was this more true than in the case of T'Challa. I said earlier, Marvel felt so very real to me as a black kid. How tragic it is that Wakanda Forever would emerge out of the very real death of Chadwick Boseman, who played T'Challa. Wakanda Forever begins there, in death, but there was an earlier version, one written when no one involved in the movie knew that Chad was gravely ill, that was very different. We'll hear about that later in this episode with Ryan and Joe. But first, we'll start with the very earliest efforts to bring T'Challa to the screen. This is Wakanda Forever, the official Black Panther podcast. I'm Ta-Nehisi Coates. Heads up, this is the second episode of our show. I don't want to tell you how to listen, but if I were you, I'd hit pause right here and go back and listen to chapter 1. The Ryan Coogler you hear in that episode contextualizes what you'll hear in this episode, and frankly, the rest of the show. You can pick up right here when you're done listening. Hopefully by now you've seen the movie too, multiple times even, because we're going to talk all about the making of that movie in its entirety, spoilers and all. You've been warned. Now, let's meet the producers responsible for bringing Black Panther and other Marvel superheroes to the movies. Kevin Feige, president of Marvel Studios, and Nate Moore, executive of production and development. I talked to Kevin and Nate remotely from their offices at Marvel Studios in Los Angeles, California.
Black Panther was one of the characters that was on a long-standing wish list when I started 22 years ago at Marvel. And to a certain extent, I look back on that and think how happy I was and excited I was that we had reached that point on the list, that we could begin to delve into. People who watch our movies and track our movies know that we had a Wakanda Easter egg in the tag of Iron Man 2. And by the way, a Namor Easter egg in the tag of Iron Man 2. And that, at the time, was not just us laying Easter eggs for audiences to find. It was us marking time and sort of pinning promises to ourselves of where we wanted this to go if it all worked out.
How'd you?
Okay, so they had already made plans for Black Panther to be in the MCU, and I didn't catch that until I actually had to go back and watch Iron Man 2, because we all know that Iron Man 2 isn't one of the most likable Iron Man movies, even though I found it very interesting that you had Ivan Vanko. Even though I didn't even know who Ivan Vanko was, I just thought he was just some made-up character. But Whiplash is an actual villain from the Iron Man mythos. And I remember watching Iron Man Armored Adventures that was on Nickelodeon that came out, and they had him on there. I was like, oh, this is the actual villain. Okay. But once again, they dumbed down the villain so bad, because Ivan Vanko, to me, if he's a rival mind and knows the same stuff that Tony knows when it comes to the repulsor tech, my friend, this dude should not be just doing what he be doing, and then he dies at the end of the movie. No,
right?
No,
but he was a mixture of two whiplashes. That's the reason why
he was. There's two whiplashes.
It's multiple whiplashes. So he was a mixture of but that's because Iron Man is a D-list. I hate to say it, D-list Marvel character.
Really now? Oh,
yeah. Wow. Okay. Iron Man is not a popular. Was not a popular character. He's popular now, but he was not a popular character. He doesn't have the best rogues gallery. You know what I'm saying? His comics don't sell. If he wasn't a part of the Avengers, he probably wouldn't have survived. That's just the truth. You know what I'm saying? That's just the truth. But he is a compelling. He's a compelling character, man. I like Iron Man for the most part, especially with what they're doing with him now. But yeah, I don't think he would have survived, man.
Okay.
Crazy thing is, you said Iron Man Armored Adventure on Nickelodeon. That came out way before it was on Nickelodeon. That was on like CBS.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, it came out when I was a kid. I mean,
when I was a kid,
it was out.
Yeah,
are you serious?
It was Fantastic Four and Iron Man. They had cartoons, and it was a block. Marvel had this block on. I want to say it was CBS.
Which one though? Because I remember the one, the Fantastic
Four. Not that one.
Okay, all right. I know the old one. Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Whoa, hold on, not the old one, because it's actually. Hold on, calm down, calm down.
I know what you're talking about.
This would have been like 94, 93, 94, something like that.
Yeah, they had different animation styles. I know what you're talking about. Come on now.
I'm just. You know, he had the mullet with the ponytail thing going on.
Yeah. I remember that. Yeah. Let me go ahead and start this up.
Say, oh,
what you feel? Nate, when Black Panther was about to hit, how'd you feel?
It was exciting. I mean, I shared Ryan's Well, we talked a lot, and even pre-production, about what the movie would or wouldn't do and what that would or wouldn't mean for other movies that were cast in a similar way. Obviously, there was a lot about the movie that was undiscovered country, at least in the traditional business.
Hold up, pause. This man said undiscovered country. I said this in the first episode. In this one, they did not move away from the Golden City. They stayed in the Golden City. Now, granted, they moved out of the Golden City when it was flooded by Namor, which that was just underwhelming for me. I was like, Flooding means the whole entire city crumbles, not just like you just above waist level. Nah, no. Y'all, this is how I know y'all did not read the Phoenix Saga or Avengers versus X-Men, because when he flooded that city, that whole entire city was underwater.
Namor didn't play no games when he didn't.
No, he didn't. And then on top of that, you saying to me that
I don't see, and they shouldn't even have done that.
Exactly, because to me, you didn't even you don't have the main components. You don't have the Phoenix Saga. Right. You don't even have the X-Men. You don't have Storm. You don't have nothing that goes with that storyline. You try to put 3 comic book storylines in one movie. You cannot do that.
They didn't even really explain Namor's power set to where he can flood a city. You know what I'm saying? Just because the T'Challa can show up, they can't. Do they control water?
No, they don't. They're not water benders. They're not.
Right. You know what I'm saying? So there is aspects in the comics where Namor does possess that capability. You know what I'm saying? Hydrokinesis. Yeah. But
my man's
not used a lot.
Right. He didn't have the horn.
You know what I'm saying? It's not used a lot, things of that nature. So you didn't even, like you said, that's not flooding the city. He made it rain a lot for the most part.
Hold on, time out. When I mentioned that horn, they gave that horn to Wakabi.
Now that ain't the same horn.
Oh, yes, it is.
That can't be the same.
Oh, yes, it is. It might have called the rhinos, the war rhinos, but that is the exact same horn that that Namor has in the comics when he's calling that war beast from the depths of the ocean. Yeah, that's the same one. That is the exact same. The shape and everything is the exact same shape.
I mean, the thing is, I do think Nate Moore or Ryan Coogler looked at I think they looked at Black Panther comics. I don't think that they read Black Panther comics like they claim to. I think they skimmed through. I think they might have hit the wiki. I think that, you know what I'm saying, might have did things of that nature, but they didn't read. So they would see cool things. Hey, how can we turn this panel and put it into, on a movie screen, things of that nature, but nah. Because Black Panther could survive this pocket of the MCU on its own. You know what I'm saying? Just like I was talking yesterday. I was on Chillmonger's podcast yesterday, and I was talking about we was talking about the X-Men. I believe Marvel, to me, should just stop, concentrate on the X-Men, and just build the X-Men.
But see, the thing is, the way that, and even like we all know that X-Men and Black Panther have a unique relationship. Even with the video games, when they had the second iteration of, it's the Marvel and Capcom characters, Marvel versus Capcom. They had Wakanda in Capcom, and they did a better job than Marvel Studios is doing with Wakanda, because you had all the Infinity Stones, which was a center plot point,
right?
And you had the Soul Stone in Wakanda. We were thinking that was going to be the case in Infinity War, but no, they had Vision in Wakanda. I was like, oh, okay, all right, cool.
To them, that was the way that they can make that happen, I guess. Look, man, let's play some more. Let's play some more.
Business model of Hollywood. But I do remember that Comic-Con when we showed the trailer for the first time, and the reaction both from the audience and the cast, honestly, who hadn't seen anything, and the electricity in that room. And we've had some great rooms, but that was kind of a special moment of, wait a second, we're onto something here. But you still got to finish the movie, which is always a longer process than you think it's going to be. And you still got to release the movie. and it was hopeful. There's good talk back, and people seemed excited. But it wasn't until that first weekend where you really realized there was something special about that specific movie.
Mm-hmm. Kevin, where does like when you think about the experience of that you guys went through on making Black Panther, where does that stand? Given all of your years working in the MCU, can you just situate us emotionally on how you feel about that whole process from the moment of conception, all the way up to the moment that it becomes this huge, massive success that I think it's fair to say certainly exceeded many of our expectations?
No, I mean, it's a high point. It's a high point for many reasons. We got to meet and work with Ryan Coogler, who's just one of the best individuals we've ever had the honor of working with on a movie and in this town. The incredible cast, Chad, of course, getting to encounter him in his brief time here on the planet. And most importantly, of course, and something that was not necessarily the only, I was not thinking about it from purely a political or making a statement point of view. I was looking at it as continuing to bring to screen all the aspects of the Marvel comics, but seeing audiences around the world respond to a hero that looked like them for one of the first times, and maybe the first time in the MCU in a title kind of a way, was overwhelming. And I don't know, the one sticks out as the early viral video when the poster came out and a group of men looking at it and just being so excited and saying, is this what white people feel like all the time? Looking at a poster with all of representations of yourselves on it. And that became something that was incredibly, there were all sorts of reasons that it was a very meaningful experience for us. And that all started in a room not far from where we're sitting now, where we were developing Captain America 3 and what would become Civil War, and Nate Moore saying, what if we add Black Panther to it? What if we use this as a way to begin to introduce the idea of Black Panther and Wakanda to the world? And that was exciting, not just because we thought it would be a great addition to Civil War, but also because it would be, again, us setting the stage, making yet another promise to ourselves that we would start heading towards a standalone Panther feature.
Mm-hmm. Kevin, you mentioned earlier you were talking about laying down these Easter eggs for Namor, and now you have Namor. And I think one of the cool things about this film is, whereas you saw this expansive experience in the first Black Panther for people of African descent, there's been this choice now by Ryan to open that up, even more, and to root Namor in a Mesoamerican culture, which is not canon in the comic books. Maybe it will be after this. But what did you think when you saw that take from Ryan?
I thought it was brilliant, and the reason to do it. There are a number of underwater heroes nowadays,
yes,
who've done a very spectacular job of presenting underwater kingdoms. So, yes, the reason to do it was Namor is a classic OG Marvel character, and somebody that Ryan used to talk about during the production of the first Black Panther.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, Panther and Namor have a very complicated history in publishing that Ryan was a fan of, that I'm a fan of, that Kevin's a fan of. And the way that Ryan approaches filmmaking, I would argue, is always finding the organic reason for that to be true. And part of that was then, okay, figuring out the reason why what was called Atlantis, what we call Talokan, would exist. And you start to sort of back into a mythology that makes sense for the character in a way that was sort of not ever really defined, and therefore lacked a specificity of storytelling that Ryan kind of requires to understand how to write to. And so by landing in this Mesoamerican society, and specifically sort of the Yucatec Mayan society of past and present, I think it gave the character and the society an anchor point that allowed Ryan to build a mythology, and B, a narrative that put it on a collision course with Wakanda, because both of the similarities of the two civilizations and the very stark differences in their experiences historically.
Okay, let's pause it.
One of the other new
What you thinking?
I'm thinking cool. Like, I think it's when I first heard about Namor coming, being from Mesoamerica, I thought it was dope, right? Namor, even though he's of Irish descent on his dad's side in the comics, I forgot what is on his mom's side.
I think she's a mutant. Well, she's Atlantean. She's
Atlantean. Yeah, she's the Atlantean. But either way, they only talked about one point that they could pivot from to grow from in this when he says he's planting seeds for Namor and things of that nature. You had a movie that just came out last year called Eternals. I think it was that was last year, right?
Oh yeah, that was last year. What's Eternals? I never heard of that before. What's that?
Eternals played a major part in the creation of Atlanteans
and X-Men, mutants.
X-Men, right? So you have this movie, whether it was good or not, but you came out with it, and you have not used anything. You didn't use that to set up anything.
Oh that movie should have been used in the ocean, right?
That movie should have been used to set up everything going forward.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? When dealing with Namor, mutants, all of that. You didn't take the time to do none of that. Instead, you wanted to throw Black Knight in there. You wanted to
put Blade in there too at the very end.
You know what I'm saying? Have a Blade cameo. Like, you did these things that was silly to me, right? If you would have used Eternals to help boost up Namor, imagine Namor in Eternals. We get a little bit more backstory on Namor, his real reason. Because think of how dumb the reason is he's really going after Wakanda.
Yep.
It's dumb. It sounds like you was rushing to try to get Namor into a movie. Hey, how can we fit Namor in? Oh, let's have him mad at Wakanda for talking about vibranium,
which they should never have.
Right. But okay, so they got it. But people been knowing that vibranium is not nothing new. You know what I'm saying? Claw been shipping out vibranium.
Yeah.
He been doing that.
Yep.
So why show up now worried about and who's coming looking for it was this movie, and the more I think about it, so vibranium is in the east coast of Africa. Why are you looking for vibranium
in the ocean,
in the Atlantic Ocean?
Yeah,
you're not in the Indian Ocean where you would think, you know, or east coast of Africa. You're not Madagascar. You're not nowhere. You in the Atlantic Ocean looking for vibranium. To me, why would I be looking for vibranium there?
And then on top of that, Theo said this: you took away the speciality that Wakanda made.
Yep.
And you gave that to a whole nother nation. When, in my opinion, if they're in the Atlantic Ocean, we have a celestial head that is in their territory that could have easily been. We don't know what celestials are made out of. You could have introduced adamantium like that and said they had adamantium instead of
but then that would take away from the reason adamantium exists. Remember, adamantium was an accident. Dude went to sleep on the job, woke up, adamantium.
Yeah, but they did. Well, if you went and if you watched Captain America, the first Captain America movie,
First Avenger.
Yeah, the first Avenger. Right. When Tony Stark was trying to like have that machine where he's going like this towards the what was a small component of the Tesseract and how it exploded. That was the Easter egg, in my opinion, to how adamantium was created.
You talking about Howard Stark?
Yeah, Howard Stark.
Yeah.
Because if you remember, in the old comics, they said that vibranium was created in a lab with Tony Stark. I mean, with Howard Stark.
Yeah,
and then, like you said, somebody fell asleep and was doing something different with the same component, but they messed it up and created adamantium.
Right.
And so But
they were trying to recreate vibranium, is what they were trying to.
Yeah,
they were trying to recreate. But that's what I'm saying. If it's so many things you can be doing. I don't know. Play some more, man. The more I think about that movie, it's just stupid, man. It's just dumb.
The new characters that we see obviously is Riri, Ironheart. Can you talk about just the importance of Riri?
Riri should not have been in this movie. No disrespect to her as a character, but y'all just shoehorned her in there just to add another black female, I think, because her reason to be. If we get rid of the scientists, that's not stopping the science.
Exactly. And my thing was, it basically, to me, she created something that can detect vibranium. What? Huh?
Right. She created she just created a glorified metal detector.
That's it.
Right? She created a glorified metal detector that I think, because if I got a piece of vibranium, if I, run it through whatever machine to check the the density and all of that, we already have that. She didn't create anything new, right? What did she create it to where now we can look in the depths of the ocean to see where it's at? Like, this is bad writing. When this movie first came out, I said this movie was written horribly. It just does a disservice to the whole brand. Outside of the other stuff that I got that I didn't like about this movie, the writing had to be the worst.
Yeah.
The worst.
Yeah.
This was just lazy. How they killed T'Challa, lazy. How they made Shuri into Black Panther, lazy. How they introduced Namor, lazy. How they introduced Riri, lazy. How they got rid of Ramonda, lazy. How they got rid of Okoye, lazy. Like, all of this was just lazy.
Can the argument be made that Black Panther 2018 was not really a Black Panther movie, even though it had the main character in it? Because to me, you had a key character missing, and then you turn him into a whole different name and made him the father of Killmonger.
You talk about
in Jobu.
I'm gonna say this. It's certain liberties I understand. I mean, I don't think that they had to do that, right, per se. But it's certain so if it's certain liberties you trying to piece together, because everything from a comic can't translate to movies. I understand that. I understand that, right? And that's just how it is. You can't everything doesn't trend. You go look at Iron Man. That wasn't a panel for panel translation. You go look at Captain America.
It fit during the times because they put it to where he was taken by people in Afghanistan, and we were in the middle of an Afghan war.
Right. No, I'm just saying, if you go look at it, a lot of these, you go look at, however many Superman movies we got, it's not a panel for panel translation. Sometimes things are look at Nakia. You talking about the uncle? Look at Nakia. When they was like, "Oh, this is Nakia," I was like, "That what? That's not Nakia. Nakia a bad guy." Right. Like, the uncle didn't hurt me as much as Nakia did. I'm like, no, Nakia should be used as Malice. She's supposed
Nakia should be the girlfriend for Killmonger.
You know what I'm saying? Like, but it's just it's still a Black Panther movie. That certain aspects is wrong. I don't know. The thing is, we would have to, because I would like, these are things I would ask Nate Moore and Ryan Coogler. Like,
oh yes,
those are the things. If I was interviewing the small things, the things that I think you got wrong is what I would ask. Not, you know what I'm saying?
The small things matter, because one, Zuri was not supposed to be old,
right?
Zuri was on par. The one thing they got right was that Wakabi was a little bit or just as young or old as T'Challa. And so Zuri, having him be a friend of T'Chaka, and T'Chaka say to him, I'm like, what? Of course, me in 2018, I didn't know these things. But when I go back and do my homework and learn, I'm like, wait a minute. This is not the movie for Black Panther.
But see, that's the reason they can get away with that is because a lot of people just got into Black Panther because of, like you just got in, you know what I'm saying? A lot of people, you got to think Black Panther didn't have a comic out until 2008. No, four. I'm sorry, 2004.
Panther's Rage was around, bro.
2004. When Black Panther showed up with Marvel Knights.
Yeah, that's true. Because
remember Black Panther came out. What was it? 66. From 66 up until what it ended in the 80s.
Well, yeah, Panther's Rage ended in the 80s. Yeah.
After that, you didn't get Black Panther no more.
Yeah, because you couldn't find writers that wanted to do Black Panther.
So if you didn't get, think of the kids like myself who was born in the 80s. There was no Black Panther comics floating around.
Yeah.
Not like that, right? Black Panther wasn't a popular IP for Marvel to be producing. They did the Marvel Knights section. They put Luke Cage, Black Panther. I think Blade was a Marvel Knight.
Yeah, and so was Ghost Rider.
Ghost Rider was a Marvel Knight.
Moon Knight was as well.
Moon Knight. Marvel
Knight. It was Moon Knight, Daredevil. It was like a lot of.
So they was trying to make it rated R.
Yeah, because they were trying to do like a lot of bloody and gore stuff that DC was also doing, but it wasn't on par with DC as much.
Right. So you don't, and then with that, I looked at I used to read the Blade. Reading Blade, they always gave us bad artists.
Oh yes.
They you know what I'm saying? The best artists, the best inkers and things of that nature was never on Black comics.
Yeah.
Never.
Yeah, but let me go ahead and keep going. Yeah.
In this film. And also, I think related to that, the extent to which this film centers around women and is very much a mother-daughter story, I would say, whereas, one might consider the first Black Panther actually much more of a father-son story. This is very much, a mother-daughter story. And I wonder how you guys felt about that, what you thought about that.
Yeah, I mean, the mother-daughter angle was dictated by the reality of what we were working with once Chad passed, right? It seemed natural that the two people who would be most affected by T'Challa passing would be Ramonda and Shuri. And I don't know what other course of action there would be other than to lean into that dynamic, because that is where the emotion is for the storytelling. And it doesn't hurt that you have two fantastic actresses in Angela Bassett and Letitia Wright. So it's not like, oh, we can't depend on them to deliver. In fact, they over-delivered in the first movie, I would argue, and sort of, if not emotionally, at least from a talent perspective, were ready to carry the film. I think Riri is an interesting addition to the franchise because much like Talokan, it's a study in contrast, right? It's someone who you could argue is as smart as Shuri is, but educated in a completely different society with a completely different experience as a Black woman in America. And so to hold those two characters next to each other, there's just narrative tension in that relationship. And so I'll just go back to it. Like, Ryan, as a filmmaker and a storyteller, is interested in building the tension of people and then seeing how they pinball off each other. And so when you have both Wakanda and Talokan and Shuri and Riri and Namor, who all have these points of view that are in contrast with each other, there's magic in that if you can land on it correctly. But the female-centric vibe of the movie is just organic storytelling. Like, I guess we could have introduced more male characters and shoved them in there or figured out ways to, get other male heroes in there if our goal was just like have more guys. But that's not a great goal for anybody to have. Really, it's how do we tell the best story?
Mm-hmm. How did you guys know Letitia was ready? I mean, she did an incredible job. I'm sure you guys as producers are familiar with her oeuvre in a way that certainly casual movie fans are not. I mean, not to say that they haven't seen her and other things, but you guys, like really, it's your business to know. From that perspective, how did you know she was ready to carry the weight of this role?
You know, Ryan,
she wasn't
very much believed in her based on her early auditions for Panther 1. She obviously killed it and crushed it on Panther 1 in the emotional scenes, in bringing humor to that film. So I think there was no question that she was capable of even more. I don't ever even remember having the conversation. Do we think she's ready for this? Do we think she can do it? I think we just knew that if she believed she could do it and was willing to step into it, that she could. And she did.
Yeah, I think the bigger question was always, emotionally, is she ready to do it?
Right.
It was never a question of talent.
Yep.
You know what I mean? She's so, to Kevin's point, she's so talented. She was great in Black Mirror. She's great in everything you ever see her in. Frankly, it was, hey, you've just lost someone who is very important to you as well. Are you ready to take on this thing? And again, she'll say it and has said it. For her, it was about honoring Chadwick by doing this. And experientially in the filming of the movie, I will say, incredibly prepared, incredibly passionate. Again, kind of knew what the movie was for her character in a way that always kept her as our North Star to some degree. Still funny, still charming, still all of the things that Shuri was in the first movie, with just that added gravitas of going through this tragic loss.
So, Kevin, where do you foresee the world of Namor and Telecon in the future in MCU?
You know, people who read the comics know that there's 80 years of stories with Namor that we can tap into. So where and when, we'll keep to ourselves for now. But we think that this is an incredibly iconic character that's being introduced, probably to most people, most moviegoers for the first time. And we very much expect them to want to see more.
I would be remiss if I did not point out the fact, and I'd be a bad fan if I did not point out the fact that he refers to himself as a mutant. Is that intentional?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, it's accurate as well, you know?
Intentional and accurate.
Okay. Intentional and accurate.
Let's break that down.
All right. So
I want to talk a bit about Shuri real quick. Letitia Wright, her being cast as Shuri, I think was probably bad, right? Not on her part. She's a phenomenal actress. I think she's dope. I personally think she's dope. But for Shuri, she was way too skinny. Just she don't have the stat. You know, Shuri has a warrior's stature.
Exactly.
You know, Shuri is a fighter.
Yeah.
She might be more ruthless than T'Challa.
She got hands for days.
You know what I'm saying?
And then on top of that, after they did that, I saw it trickle down into every part of what they did with Black Panther in animation, in the video game when it came to the Avengers video game.
Yeah.
I saw how that influenced everything. They did not when they made Panther's Quest for Avengers Assemble, they made Shuri small. When they did the Black Panther video game, they made Shuri small. When they did the animated series where they had all the females and the smart people and everything with her, Riri Williams, and everybody like that.
All of them.
Yeah, they made her small. I'm like, bro, you just going off of what you did in the movies. You're not even paying attention to what you did in the comics.
Right.
Because this shot right here, that where they had T'Challa and Shuri. T'Challa and Shuri suiting up. Right here. They have this right here. Where is it at? It's right here. Where you at? Where you at? I know you over here. Come on now. Even okay, right here. I'll show you something like this, but even in the comics where they had T'Challa and Shuri together and they were one. Here goes one right here. That looks better than what they did in the movie. And this is a rendition of what they did with the Black Panther comic when Ta-Nehisi Coates was in when Ta-Nehisi Coates was in was doing it at the time. That right there.
Yeah.
That show right that one right here. Right here.
The Run the Jewels cover, yeah.
Run the Jewels cover. That was a better iteration. And then it was even comic accurate because that's what she looked like in the comics.
Right.
And so we doing this, and then you tell me that Shuri is supposed to be this small person that is frail and still trying to find her way in the world, but she's one of the smartest people in the room. And you try to make her smarter than T'Challa. I'm over here like, what? How does that even make any sense?
I think they should have played off of the competition between Shuri because they're always competing.
Yeah, they are.
She's been competing with T'Challa since he became Black Panther, since he won against his uncle.
Yes, because she tried to get in the challenge, and T'Challa beat her to it. The 2005 BET special was the best iteration of T'Challa's origin story because you had T'Challa and Shuri fighting each other, sparring because Shuri learned her intellect, got her intellect from her brother.
She wanted to be better than him.
Yeah.
She didn't want to just be like him. She wanted to be better than him.
It only even started with Bast. They don't even bring Bast into this.
Oh, yeah. But that's so many. That's how like if I'm writing this movie, I'm trying to incorporate because I brought Bast in on the first one. I brought in that whole thing, you know what I'm saying? So I'm trying to incorporate, and to me, but since Nate Moore wanted the Black Panther mantle to just be easily discarded and given to any and everybody, it was easy. It's like Iron Man suit. Anybody can hop into it and fly.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying?
Point, I'll mention this and then I'm gonna get back to it. When they said that Rhodey was a Skrull since Civil War, I was like, you say what now?
I kind of figured that. It made sense.
But the thing to me is, why would you say that? And you just had not Terrence Howard, but Don Cheadle come out and say, hey, we haven't explored anything about Rhodey. Oh yeah, let's do this. Let's make him a Skrull. What?
No. I'm gonna tell you the reason why it probably fell short on you is because it wasn't enough superheroes being Skrull. So you only got Rhodey, right? You only got Rhodey. That's the only superhero who became a Skrull. See, if the seeds, Skrulls has been around since 90. No, I'm talking about in the MCU.
Yeah, I'm saying the
Fury. That was 90s when Fury found out about the Skrulls, when the Skrulls showed up with Captain Marvel.
Okay.
That was 90 something.
Okay.
95, I think it was. So Nick Fury had been knowing about Skrulls since 95. Skrulls been here since the 90s. I ain't talking about the comics. I'm just talking strictly MCU.
Oh, I understand. Yeah.
It was so many ways. This is what's crazy. Talos was the leader. He didn't know that Rhodey was a Skrull. Because Gravik just got into power.
Yeah.
So Talos should know you know what I'm saying, for the most. He was a general, he was a head guy.
Yeah.
He should know you know what I'm saying? So he's been there. The timeline, and that's what I said, the timeline. So 95, Rhodey gets taken over pre-snap. This is pre-snap.
Yeah, but my thing is this: if that's the case, why in the world do we see Rhodey in the beginning of Infinity War still looking like he's paralyzed? Why do we have that? That's my thing, because that's a major plot hole.
No, it's a lot of plot. No, I'm not saying there's some plot holes, but it makes sense. You know, they showed when they finally revealed the real Rhodey, he still had his gurney on.
Yeah.
Or I'm sorry, not his gurney. He still had his gown on.
Yeah.
From when he was laying in the gurney to get
X-rayed.
The last we saw him in Falcon. He was walking, and I was like, "Damn, what he doing walking? He shouldn't be walking." Because, like you said, we just saw him. He was still in his
little mechanical
or whatever
thing.
You know what I'm saying? Walking around and was that not Endgame? Was it Endgame?
No, it wasn't. He wasn't walking around in Endgame, even though he was in the suit. he had just gotten in the same accident that all the Avengers got in when 2014 Thanos blew up the Avengers compound.
Right.
So he was on the rubble. That means he had even more damage on his legs.
So it's some things. It's Marvel. Everybody's not in the same room when writing.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Or putting things together. They're not in the same email chain or something. I don't know. But it's a lot of major plot holes that happen. But it's this one scene when Rocket says who's all been to space or who all hasn't been to space. Rhodey doesn't raise his hand.
Yeah, then that's that. Oh Lord, wow. You okay.
Yeah,
okay.
Rhodey doesn't raise his hand. Everybody else raises their hand like shit. I ain't never been to space.
Wow.
But Rhodey just looks like, you know, so who knows, you know, who knows? Maybe that was a little something that they threw in, or maybe that was just he forgot to raise his hand during that take. Who knows? Who knows?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Go ahead, let's continue, man.
All right.
Finally, guys, I'm going to ask you guys just to answer something, both of you. You both, like myself, old school comic book fans. With memories of the floppies. I got the whole library on my iPad now here. But you know, in my office, I have like a ton of floppies in, you know, with the backboard and everything, you know. And I want you to try to think back to the time when you were kids collecting. And I wonder what the kid of you would think of this now.
I think about that every day in every aspect of what I'm lucky enough to do. Every day is surreal. And bringing these comic stories to life, again, which has now been a 22-year journey, just from going back to working in the early days of the first X-Men film. And so much of that time now, it was almost half my life ago, was spent looking at comics and dreaming, dare I say, what if? What if we could make more X-Men movies? What if we could bring Spider-Man to the screen? What if we could eventually do the Avengers? And it's fun that the audience has responded the way they have, so that we can keep it now finally bringing Namor to the screen.
Yeah, it certainly seems like the cuts are deeper than ever. I mean, when I was a kid and it was Superman and it was Batman and Spider-Man was coming in, you're like, well, I guess we made it, guys. I guess that's it. But you know, the fact that there's a Guardians of the Galaxy movie and an Ant-Man movie and people are like, what is going on? And for me, it's like, oh no, these are all characters that I've lived with in my imagination for, again, 40 years plus. But it just goes to show that I think comic storytelling, which was marginalized for a long time for a lot of reasons, is as valid as any form of storytelling if you take it seriously and see it for what it can be, which is a genre that you can explore things with. Great fantastical ideas, big adventure, big characters, and themes that are resonant. And the great news is Marvel Comics, even back in the day, thematically, we're talking about stuff. So we're
always there if you were. There were some people who couldn't get past a 4-color printed, two-dimensional story. They just couldn't do that. Just like today, dare I say, there are people who can't get past a genre story or something that's in space, or people can breathe underwater. Not for me.
That's not real. That's a theme park.
Yeah.
When really we're just standing on the shoulders of the creators that came before us, who laid the groundwork for all this stuff.
Yeah, no, I think it's incredible. And I just want to say, I remember back in what it would have been 95, 96, I was amazed that there was an X-Men cartoon. And so to live in this world where there's actually an MCU is just mind-blowing. Congratulations, guys.
Thanks, Tom.
Thank you. Always good talking to you. Thanks so much.
Back in 2003, I was a struggling journalist working for a newspaper on its last leg. It was not my finest hour, and honestly, I kind of knew it. I wrote some profiles, did a little bit of local politics, and reviewed some music. The newspaper's owners, meanwhile, were cutting budgets and trying to push people out. One day, while contemplating my dim prospects, I saw an ad for an assistant editor job at Marvel Comics. I thought really hard about applying. But comics were mystical to me. I had no idea how they were actually made. I could never work for Marvel, I thought. So I didn't apply. And a few months later, when it was clear I was next to be pushed. I leaped instead, thus beginning one of my many bouts of unemployment which dotted the early days of my writing career. 12 years later, in a very different place in my life, I got an offer out of the blue to write the Black Panther. Comics were still mystical to me. A writer friend of mine says you have to learn how to write every book. I felt like that about Black Panther. Frankly, it's hard for me to read those early issues because I'm still editing them in my mind, trimming dialogue, changing panel count, critiquing plot points. It's not fun. It's also not very different from how I feel about all my work. But like I said up top, comics are heritage, which means you get to see the characters you worked on, the world you lived in, rendered by other hands. You'll hear stories of comic book creators being resentful about this, but not from me. On the contrary, the beauty of reading Jonathan Hickman's take, or Evan Narcissus' take, or seeing Ryan and Joe's take is that I can stop editing and instead be the fan I always was all those years ago. Moreover, Ryan and Joe are working in film with actors who can breathe life into characters, with actors who are real people, with real lives and real deaths. And that's where we pick it up with Ryan, trying to find his story, excavate his story really, from the tragedy of Chad's passing. I met up with him at a studio in Los Angeles just weeks before the world premiere of Wakanda Forever. So I think like we talked before, but one of the things that I really, really wanted to zero in on is obviously there was the emotional weight of Chadwick passing, but there was the practical weight of it too. Mm-hmm. And once the decision was made to move forward, to definitely do what became Wakanda Forever, how do you make that switch? But you have somebody who is like, you know what I'm saying? Like the fulcrum of your movie, and you know, tragically, they've been removed. And now you gotta do something else. How did you make the switch? How'd you think about it once you made the decision to do it? Mm-hmm. You know, if you could just take me as detailed as you can be about what that process was like.
Yeah, totally. So I turned in the draft. That was the film that we were gonna make had Chadwick not passed away. And it was a big movie, but it was also like a character piece, very much about T'Challa as a man and him grappling with finding himself in impossible situations and watching him navigate them. And I was really excited about it. But also the supporting characters were there. But it was his movie. I was fired up about that. And I was actually, one of the big reasons I was so excited about it was because the first Black Panther movie was kind of different from a lot of other like first films for intro characters. We set the world up as much as we set up T'Challa. Mm-hmm. And T'Challa took not a backseat, but he was more of he was not as front and center as you normally would have in an intro film. So I was like really, really, really like excited to do the opposite. Mm-hmm. You know, and the script was built that way. So when, you know, setting the emotional aside, just the practicality of, all right, now our actor has passed away. We've decided that we want to move forward and still make this movie. So we had to make a film that worked without him. It was daunting. You know, it was daunting to think about it. And what we realized quickly was we had to kind of maintain the same themes, because restructuring it, you know, like with having another character be the focus and having a different protagonist and all that stuff would just be like a daunting task on its own. But to also restructure the themes and the questions that the film is asking, that would have been just impossible. You know, we would have had to shut down completely and not really use any of those other things. So fortunately, a lot of the themes that were in that T'Challa vehicle drive were still applicable to what Wakanda would be going through if they lost that guy.
And what are those themes, such as? Because I asked that for a specific question, because when I watched the film, like one of the big ones that I think, and I think you told me this, is mother-daughter.
Yeah, so interesting. That first script we wrote was a father-son story through and through. It was about T'Challa and his kid. Mm. And it was
Why?
What kid?
Why? Why?
What kid?
What are you talking about? What? So you're trying to tell me that all along you wanted to give T'Challa a kid, knowing he is not meant the love of his life?
What kid? But that's why they shoehorned him into this movie.
But still,
they wanted him to have a kid so bad. I don't know.
Not to establish himself as a king.
We ain't even established T'Challa yet.
Come on, bro.
Let alone trying to make him have a kid.
You trying to put too many American things into an African movie. We don't do that. Africans do not do that. They get busy first. They get themselves established first. They dominate. We do not do this. No.
Nah,
this is not what we do. No, this is not what we do.
I don't know what Ryan Coogler's motivation was or is behind that. It's a running joke that.
Oh, I know what it was. He watched Coming to America 2. That's what he did.
Well, if he watched that and thought that was good, then shame on him.
Like,
you know what I'm saying? Shame on him if he thought that was the way to do it. But nah, you don't do it. It's too much this should have been a brother sister story. Why not a brother sister story?
Exactly, because to me, if you would have had it to where Doom War was set, or even to the point where you reconstructed things to where in Doom War you had Shuri beefed up, you had this, that, and the third with Shuri. You had Shuri, instead of just focusing on her intellect, she got herself in a better situation physically. You could have done that, but no, we wanna just go ahead and give T'Challa a son. Let me just continue, man, because
it was about a man who was so affected by his relationship with his father, being a father. But the idea was really about how he copes with loss, because he lost a ton of time with his kid, and having to be king, and his kid being somewhere else. Yeah, exactly. Exactly, during the blip. And the film dealt with tragedies befalling people, and T'Challa having to find a way to cope with these things, and the idea of coping with loss and the idea of ritual was like really heavy in that script, and in that script, Shuri was kidnapped by Namor, and so that idea of Shuri spending time in Talokan, there were elements of all those things in that draft. But when we lost Chadwick and by circumstance lost the character of T'Challa in the script we were trying to make.
How did you lose the character of T'Challa? How? How did you lose that? How?
Chadwick passed, not T'Challa.
Yeah, a fictional character did not die. An actor died of somebody that was real life. No.
It became very clear that the movie couldn't really be about fathers and sons from a plot perspective anymore. And in doing that, it illuminated a lot of things for me personally, which is like I never made a movie that really dealt with my relationship with my mom. Like I had done 3 movies that were all kind of like centralized.
That's what, and this isn't just a Ryan Coogler issue. This is a lot of these new writers, a lot of these new directors, a lot of these new creators. They get an established character like a Black Panther. They get an established character like a Superman, an Iceman, whoever that's got history.
Yeah.
And they want to, they want to take what their history is
and put it on the character.
No,
that's not how this stuff works.
If you want to do that, make your own character.
Exactly.
Because you could have easily. You could have said, all right, I'm going to do Black Panther, but I want to introduce a character that I want to make up. People do that all the time.
Exactly.
Brand new character.
Point and take it. That's what I'm doing with my fan fiction. I'm not dousing the fire that is T'Challa. I'm creating a whole nother character that can go with T'Challa. Right. That can grow with T'Challa. T'Challa can teach him things. I'm not trying to make it seem like that I'm going to give the problems or the things that T'Challa has, or that T'Challa has gotten over, and I want to put my personal experiences that I experienced in real life onto T'Challa. I'm not doing that.
I mean, and you got Harley Quinn was a brand new character, right? Yeah. Brand new, strictly for the animation.
Yeah.
X-23 was a brand new character. For y'all who don't know, that's Wolverine's daughter. Brand new character, strictly for animation.
Yeah.
Didn't cross over to a couple years later into the comics. You can do that. Ryan Coogler, if you wanted to explore your relationship with your mom, you could have created Ryan Coogler, the Wakandan, who's having an issue with his moms, and him and T'Challa, you know what I'm saying, have some type of relationship.
Yeah.
You could do that.
Yeah.
Let's continue.
Neutralized of a father or a son, you know, and I got excited. You know, I got excited to have this film be about motherhood. And once that light turned on, and it made a lot of sense for Shuri to become our protagonist, it became a movie where like the chief relationship was a mother-daughter relationship. And I hadn't met a film like that since film school. So I was fired up. You know, like I was like, man, and it was really clear. I would talk with Chadwick all the time about Letitia and about Shuri as a character. And that was his favorite character in the movie. Like even aside from his own self. And it was really interesting because
Why?
I mean, it's complicated, man. Like I can go into it. But we looked at a lot
lying.
of actresses for that
He
role.
lying.
You said what?
He lying. He lying. Why that man lying on Chad like that?
Yep. Yeah.
Well, when Ta-Nehisi asked, well, why did Chad like Shuri so much? Oh, it's complicated, man. I can go. What? Tell us then. Tell us. I'm pretty sure he told you. He gave you something that was simple.
Yeah.
As to why he likes Shuri so much.
Yeah.
But you can't do that because you lying on this man right now. No disrespect to Shuri, but don't nobody like Shuri like that. Especially not back then. Hold on. Especially not back then.
Yep.
Wasn't nobody checking for Shuri like that. I can't see Chad like flipping through the pages of Black Panther like, oh man, we gotta make sure Shuri, what, 2005 Shuri showed up?
Yes.
She ain't even part of the fucking I'm sorry, excuse me. She's not even part of the Black Panther mythos really like that.
Yep.
She's retconned in. She's a new character.
Yeah.
For the most part. Come on, why are you lying like that, man? Go ahead, let's keep
Tons of them, and they all were talented. They all were extremely gifted and skilled, and Chad is really I mean, you could call him like a method actor, but he was very disciplined, you know, like, and he literally, when he performs, he becomes a different person, you know. And then you know Chad had the biggest smile I ever seen in my life.
I'm sorry, pause again, man. I gotta get some off my chest real quick. I'm sorry. Now, all the stuff that we heard from Chad in regards to what he wanted to do with Black Panther, he never said that he wanted to do a mother-daughter story.
No.
Or kids or anything like that.
No.
He never said that in any of his interviews. So what is, and I'm talking about interviews right before he passed too.
Oh yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Right before, whether it was the interviews of him talking about, oh, they ain't paying me, and we might not be doing the Black Panther 2. You know what I'm saying? Because those are out there.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
To the interviews of, nah, man, the next story, you know what I'm saying? This is what I want to concentrate on. We want to concentrate more on bringing T'Challa to life and things of that nature. He ain't talking nothing about no Shuri, man. Who is Shuri?
Oh Lord. Hey, Shuri should have, in my opinion, you could have had Shuri in the first movie. Shuri should have popped up in the second movie, to be honest with me. Shuri should be nowhere in sight. Shuri, this should be a three-way dude movie for the first one. You got actually four. You got T'Challa, Wakabi, Sion, and Zuri. That's all you need. You got him trying to, and possibly Ramonda. That's the only female support you need, because other than that, you haven't established anything to where Shuri could be in the foresight of the film. Because what Shuri does is basically I don't want to say female version of T'Challa, but it really is, to be honest with you. It really is, because Shuri is trying to not really become T'Challa. She wants to become better than T'Challa, and she wants to learn from her brother. That's what little sisters do. They learn from their older siblings.
She had, and then she had to come to a grips with herself after Bash told her she was not any good.
Oh! If that was in this movie, Lord have mercy.
You know what I'm saying? When Bash said you're not worthy.
Oh Lord,
because you trying to be something that you're not.
Oh, don't let the anti-recasters see that or casuals. They'd have been like, oh, so what you gonna do then? Simple.
You know what I'm saying?
Bring back T'Challa. That's the only way you gonna figure that out.
Like she wasn't even worthy to wear to take on the mantle.
Exactly. And then on top of that, Moreland is the person that was going after T'Challa in the whole entire situation when Moreland came to Wakanda. To be honest, if you would have had two villains, you could have had Moreland into this and introduce him and put him over in Spider-Man after the fact. But no,
now you got to introduce Moreland to Spider-Man. I don't want to see him show up in T'Challa with Black Panther yet.
Well,
I need more, because I've been talking about Moreland for the longest. Moreland needed, because when I thought Moreland was gonna show up in No Way Home.
Oh, my friend, if he would have showed up in No Way Home, Lord have mercy, Jesus.
I was saying that should be the premise of that, because you got the three spider totems there.
You know who they feed off of? Who they feed off of?
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I was like, because I'm like, okay, he get lost in if he is getting lost in the multiverse or whatever, maybe is Moreland chasing him.
Or how about this? Moreland was chasing different Spider-Man through the Spider-Verse, and he could have hopped from No Way Home to Across the Spider-Verse.
No, he could have. Right, Moreland could have been in all of those.
Exactly. He could have been. He could have been a constant villain for both Miles Morales and Peter Parker.
He could be Spider-Man's Thanos.
Exactly. But let's go ahead and continue.
I mean, like it's like a full face smile. And when he would become T'Challa, he would kind of stop smiling. You know, like the smile would go away. Because T'Challa had all of this weight and he was just coming over the loss of his father. And you know, he's a politician who can't really show, you know, like Chad, the guy smile is like wide open. You know what I'm saying? And when he's T'Challa, if you watch those films, you know, his smile is like more measured. You know, you don't see a lot of teeth. You know what I'm saying? It's like sometimes like a half smile, you know. And for whatever reason, when he would do his chemistry reads with Letitia, you would see the Chad smile. You know, like she could break through like whatever, like preparation or get, you know, she would like just dig in there, and it would. And I noticed it, the producers noticed it, and I actually talked to him about it. And what he said was, he said like, yo, she's really skilled, like as an actor. You know, he said she's really skilled. She's probably the most skilled actor that we've auditioned. But he also says, man, she reminds me of my people. Like she feels like she could actually be my sister for whatever reason, you know. And so we casted her, and they became really close. And you can see in those scenes that they have together, it's different. You know, like I said, it's a difference there. You know, so it was clear to me if we're gonna keep going, it would be through her eyes, and it kind of made a lot of sense, man. Like even with, you know, I didn't have any control over who was taking when Thanos snapped. It didn't. That was different filmmakers making those calls and executing like Kevin's vision for the whole universe at large. But I found it interesting that T'Challa went away and Shuri went away. So you can make the argument that she's never been around without our brother, you know, and how a loss on that level could just be unimaginable.
Yeah, she was snapped. She was. They confirmed that like right before the movie came out. I'm talking about Endgame, that she was snapped. I was like, what? Why was she snapped? And anything, why was she snapped? And why was she snapped?
So now I really got a problem. So Shuri's been gone 5 years. They both come back around the same time. Nah, something don't add up.
Yeah,
something don't add up.
It don't add up at all.
Something don't add up. So,
Lord of mercy, Jesus.
Because okay, so they got snapped. What was it, 2020? And this is 2025, right?
Yeah, that timeline don't add up nothing.
How old is the kid?
The kid is now supposed to be 8 years old.
Nah.
Nah,
ain't no way.
You're right. There ain't no way.
Ain't no.
Let's continue because Lord of mercy, Jesus.
So that was kind of how we went, and Namor was a great antagonist. I got notes from the studio like of how we should shift him, and at that point, Joe came into the process, and we were able to kind of hit those notes, make the script more concise, and put Shuri at the center of it. And once we did that, things like really kind of came into focus. Like Romana was on the throne and Shuri was grieving, and the ritual dynamic came into play big time because the first script was based on a ritual. Like the whole idea of that first screenplay was that T'Challa and Toussaint were doing something that we call the ritual of 8, which is where the kid turned 8 years old. He got to spend 8 days with his father in the bush, and during those 8 days, he could ask his father any question that he wanted, and his father had to answer honestly. And so now it was like, okay, well, that ritual was gone. What ritual are we going to do for Shuri? And how can I play into her relationship? Who's she doing the ritual? Oh man, which makes sense for it to be Romana. That kind of thing. And then as we were going through all those questions, this new script kind of started to illuminate.
Hold on, pause it, man. Why Ryan lying to us like this? Why this man gaslighting us? Okay, so let's dismantle this Toussaint situation.
Yeah, please.
So was he gonna be Haitian? Then
that means he ain't got no claims to the throne.
No claims. So, and this is what's messing me up. You got this bastard child, but he's going on this ritual with his dad, but he's a bastard. Why? Who is saying now they looking at T'Challa sideways?
Exactly. The same way they looked at T'Chaka when he got with Ramonda.
Right. You know what I'm saying? So, and we just had the whole situation about a child being away from Wakanda. Okay, so you do bring the bastard in, but he don't have no, to the throne. He don't have no gravitas to the throne because he's not really somebody will have to recognize this as T'Challa's child. Where's Nakia? Him and Nakia ain't married. They never brought that up.
Yeah, and then I'm thinking about the cringe scene from the first movie where she said, "If I wanted to be a king and a queen," I was like, "Wait a minute, no." I didn't even know it's supposed to be 616, but no.
Right, like
nah.
Nah, it ain't adding up, man. I would, you know what? To me, now that I really, I think I did know that she was snapped away, but not one time was it mentioned.
Yeah, they say she was missing. They didn't say she was snapped. They said she was missing in the first trailer for Endgame.
I'm talking about in this movie, Wakanda Forever.
Oh,
not one time did they address.
Oh, you're right. You're absolutely right.
Her being, you know what I'm saying, snapped. I'm pretty sure she wasn't the only way he was snapped away. Queen Ramonda could have been, you know what I'm saying? Like, they didn't address none of that.
No, they didn't.
They got her grieving her brother. Shit, what about the 5 years that I'm missing from Wakanda? What happened in those 5 years that T'Challa was gone and he opened up the borders?
This movie should have been the fan theory that this movie was set in between Endgame and Infinity War. That's what they should have went with. That would have made the most sense.
It would have made the most sense.
Yeah,
it would have made the most sense instead of killing him off.
Yeah, Lord of mercy, Jesus.
What is the work you're doing between Angela and Letitia? Like, what is the work you're doing to pull out and to highlight that relationship?
I mean, not a lot. Not a lot. With them two in the scene, I'm usually just kind of getting out of the way.
Again, the chemistry was fairly natural.
Oh yeah, man. Yeah. Like I could lead those two in a scene. They'll get each other there, you know. And a lot of becoming like a professional director is knowing when to get out of the way, you know. Like
really now, hold up. He just said when to get out the way. Did he really just say that?
As a director, not as a writer, as a director. That's totally different.
He should have said as a writer too. Lord,
you know what I'm saying? Like those two are just ridiculously gifted, man, and skilled, and they kind of got each other's number. So it's not a ton of scenes where it's just them, but the one scene is them at the riverbank.
That's right.
You know, that's the scene where I knew if this scene doesn't work, then we don't have a movie.
You need to sit here with me and with yourself. It is the only way you're going to heal from the wound caused by T'Challa's death.
I'm fine, Mother. You don't have to worry about me. He's gone, but I'm moving forward.
T'Challa is dead, but that doesn't mean he's gone. When that illness took your brother from us, I had to lead a wounded nation and a broken world. But I still took time in the bush. I wandered until I found water, and I sat. Then I did this ritual that I am about to show you now. I found your brother in the breeze, pushing me gently but firm, like his hand on my shoulder. Took some time, but he was there.
And they just nailed that scene every time.
Why is that scene so crucial?
It's the whole movie. You know, it's the whole movie. It's just because somebody's dead don't mean they gone. You know.
Yeah, that's what we said, Ryan.
The whole
hey, yes, we did.
A ritual gives the mom the opportunity to say that directly to her daughter, who's a scientist and a realist. And those two characters are there to challenge each other, you know. And you don't believe it as a mother-daughter relationship if they're not challenging each other. You don't believe it as a movie that you're gonna spend a couple more hours watching if they're not challenging each other. But yeah, it's really like a simple premise, like a simple idea, simple statement. But it's kind of like a universal concept, you know, like us as human beings trying to grapple with the inevitable, like that happens to all of us. But there's nothing like death that can be so ever present, but also seem so unfair. You know, like one of the things the film is about is how dangerous Shuri is. Like, she's the smartest person in Wakanda and designs things for the military, and Wakanda's a very powerful place. She's an heir apparent. If she's not mentally stable, you know, it could be very bad for not just Wakanda, but for the world, you know. And Ramonda knows this. And she's trying to get her to confront her loss in a way so that they can move forward in a quote-unquote healthy way. Because as the film goes on, you see that she's processing this loss in a way that's not healthy, you know? And that's dangerous. And our antagonist shows up almost like immediately after that conversation, you know, and complicates things. And he also is having that conversation with himself, having that conversation with the world, you know what I'm saying? Yeah, it's like the first time you hear Namor speak.
I am not a woman who enjoys repeating herself. Who are you?
I have many names. My people call me Khan, but my enemies call me Namor.
The last one was this kind of beautiful celebration of diasporic culture, right? We have actors, filmmakers who are from the diaspora, from the Caribbean, African American, from the continent, you know what I'm saying? From the UK, and they're all coming together and they do this beautiful thing. And I think that explains a lot of the reaction. But this time, like, you had the myth of Namor, you know, who is one of, if not the oldest, you know, of Marvel's heroes. certainly the oldest mutant, which is a really, really important thing in Marvel. And you got a hold of him. And you got your claws into him. In the most beautiful way, though. Because I think, like, what you did for the diasporic culture, there is a lot of that in terms of indigenous, Latino, Latina, Latinx culture happening here in this film. It feels like you opened it up. You know what I mean? Like you said, like this is, you know, this is for my folks, but you know what I mean? There's something larger here. And I wonder what your thought process was, you know, just in terms of Namor.
Yeah.
Because again, I think the typical thing is just to go with what's there. Go with Atlantis, you know what I mean?
Right,
and just roll with that.
Right.
Like you made a new world.
Yeah, we did, man. Like we were very much asking ourselves the question, all right, what makes so Black Panther is now gonna be a group of films. It's like, well, what makes a Black Panther film? You know, I would have conversations with Nate, and we settled on the idea of the Black Panther films being films that are rooted in real cultural realities. You know, it's always like, okay, they're films that take cultural specificity serious. Like, that not only embrace it, but like lean into it hard. Like that becomes our thing. And it's peppered through every aspect of the filmmaking. Deep research, deep dives, and things that could be seen upon second viewings. You know, they're films that wrestle with the idea of colonization and its effect on us.
Yeah.
So all of these things was like, all right, this is like, it was literally like, all right, well, this is it. This is what these movies are. So this movie has to have this, you know. And this was in the books with Wakanda, right? Like that, it's always, you know, it's always some conflict, whether internal or external. It's always a threat of them bumping heads with somebody, you know. And so when we looked at all of that, it made a lot of sense that, you know, we had to pick a lane, a cultural lane for these people. You know, it couldn't be a catch-all, and it also couldn't be something that had been done before. And that's when we started to think about, all right, so Atlantis is obviously kind of like a, man, I hope I'm not butchering the academics here, but it's like a Greco-Roman idea, you know, like is you know, Atlantis specific.
Yes,
you
no,
know?
it is. You're exactly right about that. Antiquity.
Yeah. And this idea is sunken, you know.
Hold on.
But then when we peeled the layers back.
So you said it's Greco-Roman. What? I mean, yes, in the Greek mythology, there is a substance of where Atlantis is related to Poseidon, but other than that,
Atlantis is an African concept.
It is.
Yeah.
Oh, you're teaching me something.
The emerald tablets found in Egypt from the god Thoth, who crazy enough,
Chadwick
Boseman played that character. He is from Atlantis. That's where he is from.
What, Thoth is from Atlantis?
Yes, Thoth is from Atlantis.
Wait a minute.
When
really?
Yeah. When who came up with, was it Socrates? Socrates was the first person to talk about Atlantis. Socrates got his knowledge from Egypt. That's where he heard the story of Atlantis from.
Wait a minute. So you mean to tell me that he heard that from Egypt, and then Socrates put that into mythos with the gods of
No. Socrates put that into real life. You know what I'm saying? Like real life. Socrates was real. Atlantis has nothing to do with Greek mythology at all.
Why is that put into Greek mythology then? Who put that in there?
Rewrite. It's where do you get Atlantis in Greek mythology?
Nowhere. It don't even exist.
Right. Atlantis don't exist in Greek mythology. Poseidon don't reside in Atlantis. Poseidon is the god of the ocean. You don't reside in Atlantis.
Well, based on
Little Mermaid, that's
Neptune. That's Neptune. That's
right,
a Roman god.
Neptune is the Roman version of
Poseidon. Yeah.
Right. So you got to think, once the Romans and the Greeks got together, the Roman gods, the Greek gods, they just got different names.
Did the same thing.
But so now, as time goes on, people just start adding to things.
Yeah.
Right.
They did.
But Atlantis is not found nowhere in Greek mythology. Not from what I remember. I used to read a lot of Greek mythology back then. I don't remember Atlantis showing up in nothing other than what Socrates. No, I'm sorry. I keep saying Socrates. Plato. I mean, let me.
Yeah, Plato.
Other than what Plato said about when he was describing the lost city of Atlantis. He was the first person to say anything about Atlantis. But he talked about where he got that from. He got that from his studies in Egypt. Thoth is from Atlantis. That's what Thoth is from. Atlantis could be found in the Sudan, actually. There's a place in Africa, West Africa. It's this big round circle. You can see it from space. Looks like a city. Looks like it was used to be water surrounding all these. It's crazy. You know what I'm saying? But I mean, I can go on days and days about stuff like that. But yeah, he's wrong about it. It's not Atlantis is not Greco-Roman.
Nobody did their homework in this film. Nobody.
As with all things, you realize that every culture kind of has one. Every culture kind of has a story of people that like, or a place that went into the ocean. You know what I'm saying? Or like people, you know, you see it's like, oh man, they got them in South Asia, you know, East Asia, and the continent, Caribbean, you know, and so for Talcon, when we settled on this idea that there were people who changed themselves and moved somewhere, that for me was like, oh yeah, that's it. You know, it's a migrant story. And there's gonna be some tension there between someone who had to move versus somebody who never had to, you know? So that, whereas with Killmonger, he was moved forcefully. The African-American story, we were moved against our will, you know, to a new place, forced into a new place. But the migrant story is the decision.
What'd you say?
He wasn't moved. Killmonger was born in Oakland. What is he talking about? He don't. And see, that's another reason, another issue that I have with this movie. Wakanda Forever forgets everything that happened in Black Panther.
Oh yes, it does. Oh yes, it does.
Listen to what he said. It's a immigrant story. Who immigrated?
It's a migrant story. They moved.
Migrant story, right? Who?
Lord,
and then he brings up Killmonger was born in Oakland.
Yeah, he wanted born.
He joined the military, got trained, and then he said, "I'm gonna go to Wakanda because that's where my people from."
Yeah.
To go to a new place and never look back and change myself, change my children. That I felt like, oh yeah, just being from California, like I know that that's a story that a lot of people in the world are gonna identify with. They had to change themselves into water breathers to go to this place to run from all this crazy shit. You know what I'm saying? And man, what a chip on his shoulder this dude must have. You know, even if he identifies with Wakanda slightly, it's also on a base. Like, man, y'all don't get it.
Oh, so now, okay, so he talking about Namor. He said Namor had to, but and that's kind of disrespectful too, because he talking about migrants with the Mesoamerican, the Mexican people. That's kind of disrespectful. Cool, you know what I'm saying? Okay, so you trying to say that, but even Namor was born an Atlantean or a Talocan. He don't know about surface world. I mean, he's the only one. I mean, he would know about surface world because he could walk on the, he could do that.
Yeah,
willy-nilly, whatever. But that was how long, you know what I'm saying? His mom's, what, it was 5 of them, 6 of them, or however many.
It was like a whole tribe of them. But my thing is, it was more than just a tribe. They said the whole entire coast of where the pyramid was.
The Yucatan.
Yeah, Yucatan. They said that whole entire people, when they moved out, when they had that pyramid that's up now, that's now to that day, they said they moved all into the ocean because the conquistadors came in and they were trying to conquer that land. And then on top of that, they said that what was it that they said? That that his mom, before she passed, used to tell him stories about a nation that never had to move. How did she find out about that?
Oh, talking about what? Yeah.
Yeah, how did she find out about Wakanda?
I don't know. I mean, well, if you look at world history, If we want to go back, Africans was traveling.
They were traveling. What I'm saying is, so she talked specifically. He made reference to Wakanda,
right? So his mom, I can see that when I was down in the Yucatan. I'd have been there a couple times. You get that, you know, the Olmecs and things of that nature. And you get a lot of black looking Mexicans down there, right?
Yeah.
So, and they have stories of tall men from across the water coming over, adorned in gold, trading gold for flint or things, you know what I'm saying, who traded with them. So it could have been some Wakandans who came over. I give him that. We know he's been lying, but I
give him that little wiggle room. But other than that, they don't know about Wakanda. No,
right? I give him some wiggle room on that.
Yeah,
I got a chip on his shoulder in the books, you know,
right.
And we were trying to find, you know, what's our movie's explanation for his chip? What's our thematic explanation for what this dude is dealing with?
Cool, the work is in service or something. You know what I mean? You didn't go just say, let me just cast indigenous, you know what I mean? With Chad, you didn't say, let me just cast black dude who is, the significance of it is there. You know what I mean? And so you were talking about communities who historically have been underserved, poorly served, exploited, etc. You know, by Hollywood and by pop culture in general. And you're now bringing a high level of craft to those communities. That's what I see as the observer, right? So it's like it's a particular service. You know what I mean? That is beyond what we just call quote unquote representation, which, you know, good film, bad film.
Yeah.
I wonder if that ties into your thought process. Like, are you thinking? Obviously, you're thinking about the fans, of course, right? I have no other way to say this, but are you, in your mind, is it, I have to perform at this level for my people too?
Wow.
And you can define my people as big as you want to, by the way. You know what I'm saying?
You know, I understand. I played football before I made movies, and I'll write my family's names on my cleats. You know, because it's like,
going to Theo's territory.
I don't know what I'm personally deserving of.
I know exactly what you mean. I know exactly what you mean.
But they deserve it all, you know. So like,
it's like we fight harder for other people for some reason.
Man. Yes, you know, movies are also like a form of time travel, man. Like it's funny. I was talking with my editors, and we were watching the film, and we watched the film hundreds of times. Like we watch it to a point that, you know, we know about heart. We like saying Mayan words in our sleep. You know what I'm saying? And for us, the sacrifice is we don't get to watch it for the first time.
Yeah.
When it's finished, and it's like, whoa, you know what I'm saying? Like, how they do that? You know, like that's what we sacrifice. And we said to ourselves the other day, we was like, you know, the film Men in Black, like the neuralizer, that thing they flash and it take your memories away. We was like, yo, I wish we could like neuralize ourselves and just watch it like as our 8-year-old selves. You know what I'm saying? And
oh, you definitely did that because you forgot what you did in the first movie.
Maybe that's what happened, man. Neuralize it.
Yeah.
Because I think that we chasing more than anything like a feeling. The feeling that I got when I watched Jurassic Park for the first time, or Terminator 2 for the first time, and the feeling I had while walking out of the theater, you know, and you want to give that feeling to somebody, you know what I'm saying? And yes, watching those films as a black man is complicated. Sometimes you the side character, you get ate by the dinosaur, you know what I'm saying? Like I remember feeling it as a kid, saying, oh man, this film is great. But man, we kind of got played in this, you know what I'm saying? Like, you know, or like that was the story of me in film school, bro. They show you these masterpieces, and they are masterpieces. But I'm also a black man watching this.
Yeah.
You know, like I can't let that go. You know? So yeah, like who it's for is like for people, it's for everybody. Right. But it's also for people who hold both realities.
So, we're supposed to end here. But one of the best things about journalism is you think you know the story, but if you're doing it right, the narrative that emerges is always deeper, more complicated, and more nuanced than you think. The end you theorize is almost never the end that actually emerges. In this case, what emerged for me is that Black Panther and Wakanda Forever were not films that were made so much as they were built. If Ryan's the architect of the MCU's Wakanda, Nate Moore was Wakanda's developer. It was Nate who called on Chad, Ryan, and Joe Robert Cole. It wasn't until I started this project that I realized how intentional and consequential these choices were. You'd be hard-pressed to find another project of this size in Hollywood's history that was conceived of, developed, and led by Black men. Joe joined Ryan and me in Los Angeles to talk about this tremendous moment in Hollywood history. I wanted to ask Joe about what it meant to work on a project where everyone of consequence spoke the same language.
Growing up, I never saw myself ever as a kind of a hero, certainly not a superhero. And so you're just the like excitement of creating, the excitement of this, of Wakanda, like that idea of the world building of that was something that was so inspiring to be a part of. And daunting, because you don't want to screw it up.
Right.
But then the thing with the first film that really resonated with me also that I drew from was this idea of what it, and Ryan, I remember we talked about a lot of things, but I remember us talking about being African-American and how we were raised to see Africa.
Yes.
And like just that shared experience of like how we both have these views of on either side that are shaped by non-Black people, and what that is and how that could shape these two, our antagonists and our protagonists. Like that's really was so interesting to me and so personal.
Like, and people don't realize how much of a departure like MCU to Charlie is from every time you open a book. And I remember Panther 1. It was a decision that had a ripple on what this movie is. And we were going back and forth like, yo, this movie got too many characters in it. You know what I'm saying? Straight up. Like, who can we pull out? You know what I'm saying? And it was like, hey, man, what if we took Ramona out this movie? And I remember talking to Joe and saying, hey, man, I said, this don't feel right to take her out. Like, I can't explain why it doesn't feel right. And I was thinking about plot and X, Y, and Z. And then Joe said, hey, man, very calmly over the phone, he said, bro, you won't even have his mom. I didn't say nothing after that. He said, bro, every time my mom touched me on my chest, I feel safe.
Damn.
It's a deep thing to hear from your co-writer, you know what I'm saying? But it's like a profound, like, human truth. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So out of that came a lot of approaches with direction. You know, we cast Angela out of that. You know what I'm saying? Out of that idea. And this film is all that.
Right.
You know?
Right.
The second one.
Right.
You know? It's all that idea. And it's just reframed a lot.
Do you remember that conversation?
Yeah. I do remember.
What were you thinking about?
He said it. We were trying to figure out the best version of the film and trying to do the right thing and make the best choices and be personal and follow our hearts and all those things. And, you know, my mother and my grandmother, and, you know, I'm who I am because of them. So
Joe wrote a specific scene with Angela and Denai. And there was a line I remember that Okoye saying, y'all have given everything. And me, I would have never wrote that line because for me, I couldn't see Okoye saying that to Ramonda in that tribal council. But it was important for her to say it because Okoye would say that. And it was like, oh yeah, sometimes people say shit they probably shouldn't say at certain moments to certain people, you know what I'm saying? Right. But that's like reality. And then unlock something in that scene.
Ningathetha umkhanikazi. Yume. Ndiyacela. I have given everything. Let me die saving my country and that throne. Ndiyacela, Mama. Allow me to make this right. Make it right. I do not know if my daughter is alive or dead.
I mean, it's beautiful, bro. Like to be able to have the room for collaboration because the world is just really that way. And me and Joe, though we get along, but our lives were not the same. Same with Nate. You know what I'm saying? Like we all three Black people, but our experiences very different. You know what I'm saying? Like, and it's helpful to be able to say, hey man, what if this happened? And when you passing the script back and forth, you run with something, you see it, it's like, oh shit. To have that is great, man. But
hold on, I gotta pause that right quick. Why did they go so hard in they went hard against Okoye, and I was confused about that. There was a whole entire deleted scene with Okoye and her. I guess now one of the tribesmen is her father, and
fight against taking the throne.
No. Well, yeah, that because that's the one I'm talking about, and that's Wakabi's fault. That's Wakabi's father-in-law. And one thing that I didn't really like the marriage between Okoye and Wakabi in the first movie. I was like, what? Wakabi and Okoye are married, and then she goes against her husband because she betrayed her. Lord mercy, Jesus. You had Wakabi betray his best friend because the dude that he could not see through, that was using Claw as a way to get to the throne.
Right.
Because when T'Challa told, or when Okoye told Wakabi in the other delete scene that N'Jadaka stole Claw from them, and then he comes up to Claw, and I mean not Claw, but the dude that took the dude that they're supposed to be bringing back to Wakanda from them, and I mean they just don't make sense. You got blacks going to get black, Africans going to get Africans. That'll make no sense to me. You in a nation that was not colonized, and you all in harmony. You grew up together. No. No.
I did not cast Chad. I did not pick Joe. These are like decisions that I inherited. And man, like I'm truly grateful.
Maybe that's why I paused that.
Is it true?
He said he didn't cast Chad. I forgot he didn't cast Chad. That was the Russo.
Yeah, brother. He was already cast when he got into the when he got into the project.
Maybe that's why it was so easy for him to walk away from Chad and that whole concept.
What you mean?
Meaning when Chad died, it was easy for him to say, all right, let's move on. Sure, he's gonna be the new Black Panther, yada yada yada. We don't need to carry on Chad's legacy. We don't need to worry about all the stuff that Chad did to bring this character to life. We don't need to worry about that because I didn't cast him. He's not my guy anyway. And that's what I mean by everybody's so fake, man. Everybody act like everybody was brother and sister on this set. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. Like that's how they try to paint this narrative. Like, oh, me and Chad, that's my brother. Oh, Letitia Wright and Chad, they was like brothers and sisters, yada yada yada. And not saying that they wasn't, but they trying to make it seem like they was every night hanging out, going to dinner and inviting, kids, bringing the kids over. That's Uncle Chad right there. That's Auntie Letitia. That's Auntie, you know what I'm saying? Like they trying to make it seem like they was just this one big happy family instead of making it seem like, nah, we just work together. We close at work, but we just work together. Like if me, you know what I'm saying? Like at work, if somebody left work, I'm like, damn, bro, is gone. But I hope they bring somebody in who could do his job. You know, you know what I mean?
Yeah, and this whole entire thing was you made it seem like the saying the show goes on was completely inert.
Right, like it don't exist.
Yeah.
That's Hollywood is the show must go on.
Exactly. Because if we've said this before, if Tom Holland passed away, if Ben Affleck passed away, they'd be trying to find somebody, and they did find somebody to play Batman.
They would have found him a month later. They would have put this. They would have put this on hold or filmed all that they could film without him being involved, and they would have got them a new Batman or a new Spider-Man.
Yep.
But the show goes. I mean, if you're doing Broadway, which or just play acting, which is what most people come from, all of these actors have done. If Letitia Wright would have died, God forbid, while she was playing Lady Macbeth or something like that.
Shoot, from what they said in the I wish when we get to this episode with Letitia Wright, they don't even mention that about the accident that she had on the set that made them pause production for some time.
Right. Yep.
Because she almost died making this film. Because one, she was not physically fit to do the character.
Nah, she too
all
small.
All the stunts they were doing, no.
She's not an athlete.
She's not.
She's not an athlete.
You tried to make her one. That's why I said she was not ready, because you did not develop her physically. Yeah. You just had her mentally, and so no.
I got one thing I would ask you guys to do, which is kind of I don't know that you guys are prepared for this, but it just occurred to me listening to you both. You both have highlighted the uniqueness of the situation. I think it's quite clear. You got a black exec, you know what I mean, who hires you, Joe. Actually, along with Kevin Cass, T'Challa. Nate was very much responsible for that, because I've heard him talk about that. And then brings you in. So you come into a situation, right? That's actually well set up.
100%.
Very, very, very well set up. You then, hire other folks. And so now you have a collective of folks who feel the story in a way, like obviously craftsmen at the highest level, but also feel the significance of it, in a particular way. I wonder if that is giving you guys any insights on the rest of Hollywood. And I wonder whether it has done anything in terms of your expectations. Thinking beyond yourselves, even thinking about young filmmakers, et cetera. Like, I wonder how you guys think about everything else, knowing that.
I've actually had enough experience in my 36 years of living to be able to recognize special situations, special circumstances, special people. I've come across them a few times, and Panther was like special in so many ways, man. That whenever I'm working on it, a lot of the anxiety I have is because I know that it's a chance something like this might not ever happen again. Straight up. And Chad knew it more than anybody. So like what I'll do when I'm dealing with other companies or other situations, and as I get older, I'll deal with more. I'll try to say, look, Panthers are winning. Panthers. If I walk in the door with them type of expectations, I'm walking the door expecting Feige sitting across, the other chair, or for somebody to say, yeah, we got a writer on this project and it's Joe. You know what I'm saying? Like, that ain't how it works. And I don't know if that's how it should work,
But shouldn't there be more of these? I'm not, look, I understand
it would be nice.
It's specific, but it's like what you basically saying is not a diversity conversation.
Yeah.
Like, this is a craftsmanship and a deep knowledge of a culture conversation.
Yeah.
And they can walk in and they know that they're going to have other people like that. And this feels original in that sense. You would think it should be more of that, right?
It's more. I think it's more coming.
Right.
I do think that like what we were able to do has made an impact.
Right.
Yeah.
I just want to ask in the most general sense, what is the significance of Nate Moore?
Yeah, without Nate, I'm not standing here. Because Nate called me, and first thing I asked him, I was like, "Hey, yo, you black?" Over the phone, because he called and was like, "Hey, yo, it's T'Challa this, T'Challa that." You know what I'm saying? I was listening to him, and I was like, "Oh, I think there's a black dude on the other end of the call." So I just asked him, because like your worst nightmare is going into a situation, making a character whose blackness is so fundamental to why he's a thing, and you don't have anybody who knows what that means in a position of power. I'm not sure I would have done it if that wasn't the case, because it never feels good to be the only black person in the room. But trying to make something like this without somebody there, for me, it would have been impossible.
Well, I think, we understand collectively, but I want to tease that out. Why is it important for you not to be the only black person in the room?
There's something beautiful about being in a room with other Black folks and having shared experiences, but different points of view, because you're creating not in a vacuum,
right?
Where people are looking at you as well, what is it? And you're going, well, it could be a lot of things. It would be great to have someone who has a shared experience to be able to bounce it off, especially in a position like what Ryan's talking about. These are big, big movies, and having somebody who really understands where you're coming from to be able to even Nate can translate. He's the bridge in that way.
Yeah, I wouldn't be here if that wasn't who called me.
Yeah.
You know?
Outside of comics, for all of my original works, I've had a black editor. There is simply no way I'd be where I am if this weren't the case. This isn't a brief for some sort of magical or, God forbid, genetic invocation of race. This is about shared culture and shared history. It's about having a partner who gets your references, the Red Summer, the Double V campaign, or George Jackson, and can build on them. That last part is so key. When you're a black writer in a room with a black editor, or a black director in the room with a black producer, the possibilities are boundless. Ideas ping back and forth with each of you adding new ones, drawn from a shared well of symbols, metaphors, and narratives. But when you're the only black person in the room, you're just trying to bring everyone else up to speed. It's like opening a soul food joint and having to explain cornbread to your whole staff.
Okay. Okay, so he just mentioned that. I've this is like probably my third time listening to this. He mentioned that, so there's 3 minutes left. I'm gonna let it ride. I'm gonna let it ride.
And that's not just true for black people. At the genesis of any successful project rooted in a collective experience, be it the Irish experience, be it the Jewish experience, be it the LGBTQ experience, you need authors who know that experience, who've seen its possibilities and its limits. The reason the Black Panther movies work so well, I'm convinced, is because its authors understood that need. That's not race. That's heritage. That's reality. That's life. Now, I'll admit, I love talking about writing. It's close to my heart. But the true mystery of these films for me is the spell they cast, the music, the setting, the acting. Next week, we'll hear about that from some of the people who make all of that happen. Production designer Hannah Beekler.
I wanted to infuse everything with Chadwick's memory, paying tribute to him and paying tribute to the character that changed film.
Director of photography Autumn Durald-Arkapaw.
How do you light the deep ocean? How do you show up a city, a culture? How do you make it feel real? These people are also talking underwater. How do you do that?
And the incomparable actor, Angela Bassett.
Yeah, when you get an opportunity to pull from a real place and you really have an opportunity to reach out of that screen and pull at someone else's heart and imagination, that's what you hope to do every time you step up to the plate.
I'll be back next week with another chapter of Wakanda Forever, the official Black Panther podcast. If you like the show, be sure to follow, rate, and review it on your favorite podcast app. And tell your friends and
So I want to go back to where you said about where you talked about the part
cornbread.
Yeah, the corn. I got to go back to that part because
that was like 3:30 left.
Yeah, that was 3:30. So all right, cool. So let's see. All right.
The possibilities are boundless. Ideas ping back and forth with each of you adding new ones, drawn from a shared well of symbols, metaphors, and narratives. But when you're the only black person in the room, you're just trying to bring everyone else up to speed. It's like opening a soul food joint and having to explain cornbread to your whole staff.
Okay, so he mentioned that. All right. So we're doing that. In this standpoint, in this situation, yes, there is a truth to not being the only black person in the room. But when you're in a different genre of storytelling, it goes back to the same conversation we've always had. The source material is what your blueprint, your script, your story That's where you're pulling from. The one thing that I don't understand is, and even to when Nate Moore and now recently Kevin Feige has come out and said this. We do not want to get anybody that's a geek that knows the comic book to a T. We don't want that. Why? That doesn't make any sense whatsoever when you're making a comic book movie.
Not to cut you off. I think it's a money thing. So if I go in and let's say I go back, Christopher Priest. Let's just go say I read all of those comics from early 2000s. That Marvel Knight story, Killmonger showing back up, Malice showing up. What was Craven was in it? You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. But now I have to give credit to Christopher Priest.
Mm-hmm.
I have to now pay, and that's what I think it is. I think they're saying don't go read the comics because if you start pulling from these comics, we have to pay these writers.
Oh.
We now have to credit these writers on this movie.
Oh, okay.
That's what I personally think, right? Mm-hmm. Because there's no real reason to say, hey, I don't want anybody who doesn't know the source material. If I'm writing if I wrote Peter Pan, hold on. Harry Potter, let's say in 20 years, somebody wants to do some more Harry Potter stuff.
You better have the source material.
And right now, Harry Potter, it's been people still been reading the books. It's not as popular as it is now, but you know what I'm saying, 20 years from now, people still know about Harry Potter. They still know the source material. They still know that. I go and I get Umpty Squat McDaniel to come through and write a Harry Potter book, and he totally don't read. He don't know nothing about Harry. Only thing he knows is that Harry is a magician and he lives in London, right? Yeah. From that area, from Great Britain. That's all he knows. And then he started adding this new 21st century stuff to it. You know what I'm saying? Like, dog, Harry Potter didn't grow up in the 21st century. You know what I'm saying? You adding all of these different, you need to think about what was going on back then, the thought process of people during that time. You know what I'm saying? What would Harry Potter do? Because it's what was that, like the 1920s, 1930s or something like that? What do people do in the 1920s and 1930s? Right?
We don't know.
No, you do know, because it's history. You have to go and do the research. That's what I'm saying. You have to go do the research. Black Panther, what would T'Challa do? What would Shuri do? These are questions as a writer, as a director, you have to ask now, because these characters are established. These are established characters.
Yeah.
Just like people walk around that bracelet that says, what would Jesus do? What would T'Challa do? What would Shuri do? What would Killmonger do? What would Queen Ramonda do? What would all these people do in these situations? Not what would you do? You know what I'm saying? It's not, hey, what would I do in this situation? No, what you now are writing from the point of view of T'Challa, aka Black Panther, the King of Wakanda. That's the point of view you're supposed to be writing from.
Yep.
And I don't think that they understand. Even if you don't want to go all the way back into the comics, do a little research. Do something to where you see, oh, okay, dang, T'Challa don't play when it comes to this. Oh, T'Challa, he kind of, he don't make silly decisions. He actually kind of think things, you know what I'm saying? Like, they do it with Batman. They do it with Spider-Man.
I can guarantee you, if they made the bold decision like they should have to recast that first scene where Ramonda is talking to the UN,
it wouldn't have been her.
Oh no, it wouldn't have been her. It would have been her. It would have been her and T'Challa sitting down talking to the UN, but Ramona would have been the moral support. She would have called in the Dora Milaje, but those French soldiers would not be living.
No.
If they wanted to say T'Challa been away for 5 years, he'd have missed all this stuff that happened, excluding the whole Toussaint craziness. He would have seen that while he was gone, that different countries tried to invade Wakanda, and there was nobody to protect them. Wakanda had the, well, I don't want to say Wakanda had to survive on the skin of their teeth but they were in a, I don't say too much turmoil, but they were at a point where they had to really grasp the situation where they didn't have a king or a Black Panther protect them.
Right.
And I'm gonna just insert this here. The character that I have developed, that I'm still developing, that puts the how we saw Okoye being in charge of or being the representative for Wakanda in Endgame and Infinity War, or Endgame. My character, the way that I've developed it, the way that I've made the story to go with T'Challa, T'Challa grooms my character to be able to be a Black Panther, because he has lineage, he has ties to the royal family that goes way back, that is rooted through Jabari and the Border Tribe.
Okay.
So my character, if God willing that I'm able to work with Marvel and do what I want to do outside of just mainstream DC and Marvel characters, the way that my universe is set up, I hope that they catch on that I can be a potential candidate to work with them. And when I bring to the table that I have a character that would work with T'Challa, but it requires you to bring T'Challa back to the front, to the center of the stage of the story, who is the main character, you're gonna have to have it to where my character in the MCU was in the 5 years that he was gone. He was leading Wakanda. He was trying to follow the footsteps of T'Challa because he took notes from that. He was a distant, I don't want to say distant cousin, but basically a little brother, a mentee that T'Challa took under his wing. And in the 5 years that he was gone, he literally was basically ruling Wakanda to try to get them to a stable country, because there was turmoil. Half the population was gone. There were not enough workers. And when everybody came back and T'Challa came back, that's when my character steps away and says, okay, look, the real king is back. Right. I was just the person that was trying to do what my big brother taught me how to do.
Right.
And so you have stuff like that. And that's what I'm saying. The creativity, us as people that are doing these things, that are trying to create content, that are doing all this stuff, it baffles me how we as a people are not looking for money. We're looking for stories. We're not looking to get ourselves into the politics of situations, even though there's fictional politics when it comes to certain things. Right. Fictional, not real life. We literally come to this world to get away from the real world because it gets
right. But see, I think the writers these days don't understand fictional politics. They don't understand that, yes, it's politics in media, but it's not like T'Challa doesn't live on this earth. Right. He don't walk the same earth that I walk. He's on the 616 earth, whatever earth that may be. If it is real or if it's not, who cares? But it ain't this one. Right. Iron Man is not here. Spider-Man, all of this. So they don't have, because think about it. If superheroes was running around, the politics on this real, if superheroes run around, the rules and things that we have set forth would not be what they are.
Yeah.
They would be governed by different rules. They'd be governed by different politics. It'd be different situations, things of that nature, right? Yeah. Now you can always play off of real world politics. I mean, because like we was talking about Afghanistan and Iron Man and things of that nature. Like, yeah, you can throw those little subtle things in there. You know what I'm saying? Because Afghanistan is probably Afghanistan on every earth, right? Yeah. so you can do that.
Yeah, but the thing is, like, so you say politics. The subtle reference that T'Challa made in the 2018 film was, of course, this was during the presidency of Donald Trump, at the very beginning of Donald Trump's presidency. He said that fools build walls, but wise men build bridges. That right there put the cherry on top.
That was enough, right? That was
enough right there. That was enough to put a jab at people that were saying, "Oh yeah, let's do Trump." That's it. That's all you had to do.
Right.
That's all you had to do. In this movie, you not only doing a certain politics to where their leader is gone, and now different countries are trying to find ways to infiltrate Wakanda to take the resources. You're trying to make it to where it's a real world country, and we're going to be washed out. We're going to be basically conquered by everybody that knows about Wakanda.
Right.
the way that movie should have made was, as soon as T'Challa came back, he shut down Wakanda to where he took back all the resources because he tried to
close the border. Yeah, we got.
He tried to be the one that was trying to create bridges, but all he saw was he went back to the mentality that his grandfather had. We are isolationists. We do not want to deal with nobody else.
Or to you know what I'm saying, to not make him seem like a dick. I've been gone for 5 years and my country's gone, you know what I'm saying, ain't doing too well right now. I need to close these borders down. I need to shut it down.
Yeah.
So I can get my country back, you know what I'm saying?
Make it to where they forget about Wakanda.
So
make it to where I don't say the world forgets about or the leaders forget about Wakanda. They understand that, or how about this? The Claw or the organization that Claw was from, somebody goes and puts the information out that Wakanda has this kind of weapons. If you want to create something to where Wakanda is trying to in the Lord, you just sparked. Let me stop talking because you just sparked the idea that I might
go use it. Go use it.
Oh yeah. Let me. Oh yeah. Okay. Yeah. All right. Cool. Yeah. But anyway, yeah. I'm like, oh yeah. Thank you for that. Thank you for that. But yeah, man. I'm gonna try to hit you up for the 3rd episode. I'm gonna try to get Theo and Daryl on this.
Okay.
But yeah, man. Thank you for coming through. This has been your man Nico Bean. Please like, share, subscribe. I thank y'all for walking with me. Blue.
What's up? This is Blue Minotti from Blue's House. Like, share, subscribe. All that. Appreciate it.
Yep. We'll be going live Tuesdays, 7:30 p.m. Tuesdays and Saturdays, 7:30 p.m. Thank y'all. I'll see y'all in the next one. Peace. The recording. You stop recording. And